Stop.
Won't stop.
Won't stop.
Till killer cops.
Or in cell blocks.
Can't stop.
Can't stop.
The following newly released video portrays an incident of assault and violence at the hands of police. Viewer discretion is advised.
I suggest you back the fuck up.
No, why you want to talk to me? Why would you say that?
This is Baltimore City Police Officer Jorge Bernardez Ruiz. In a newly released video shot in 2016, Ruiz is seen with his knee on the back of an unknown man with a gun pointed at the man's head. His message was a clear one. Concerned onlookers, adhere to my dictates or else. Here, we can hear Ruiz saying to Baltimore residents,
I suggest you back the fuck up.
It is documented that Baltimore police officer Jorge Bernardez Ruiz is a repeat violent offender, even without access to all complaints against Ruiz, undisclosed by BPD Internal Affairs records. 6 cases involving Ruiz are known. This video will briefly highlight 6 total cases beginning in July of 2013. Case 1, Abdul Salam, July 1st, 2013. Here Salam is seen victoriously smiling in celebration after the jury found Ruiz and 2 other cops liable for brutality against him. However, because the trial was civil, not criminal, Ruiz was not fired and he did not go to jail.
Police profiled me. They followed me in the back of my house, harassing me. Police proceeded to violently and hostilely approach my van with me and my son in it. As I announced, this was my home, guns drawn. Once they reached my vehicle, they violently pulled me out, ramshacked my vehicle with my 3-year-old son strapped in his car seat, threw me against the gate, slammed me repeatedly. Picked me up by my feet, and while I'm upside down, they proceeded to drop me on my head, hog tie me, and immediately when I fell on my head, Ruiz, in a wrestling type of action, and kind of hit his knee against my neck. I was arrested. I had no idea what I was being arrested for. My son is scarred to this day. He remembers the incident as it happened yesterday. When he talks about it, he always refers to Daddy being on the floor with police yesterday.
Case 2, Darrell Harris, profiled, as seen in this video, July 17th, 2013.
Yeah, Sid, what's wrong with it? Improper way with it. There's no such thing as an improper way.
You gonna tell me my job, bro?
I know the law.
Are you gonna tell me the law?
I know the law.
You gonna tell me the law?
I know the law. What's the problem? You giving me a ticket? You need my license registration?
Yeah, let me get that.
Profile, y'all use the seatbelt as a reason. Profile.
Hold on a second, sir. Do me a favor, take out your keys.
Yeah, you can record me. For what? Nah. I don't feel safe right now. Do you want me to step out the car? Do you want me to step out the car? I'll step out the car. Call the police, man. What do you call a supervisor? Don't about to do shit. This is getting uploaded to the internet right now. Yeah?
And we are 2 law-abiding citizens that we are getting targeted, and I don't know why.
Just 24 hours later, Bernardez Ruiz played a leading role in the police killing of unarmed Tyrone West. Case number 3, the murder of Tyrone West, July 18th, 2013.
My brother Tyrone West was brutally murdered on July the 18th, 2013.
In both of these cases, when you look at the pleadings and the harsh language of these officers that have been quoted to me by reliable witnesses, the N-word.
And Killer Ruiz and Killer Chapman and the rest of those 11 to 15 killers, including David Lewis, took something from my family that they could never give us again. And that was my brother Tyrone West, one unarmed man who was brutally murdered, beat to death in broad daylight.
Mic check, mic check. This is West Wednesday. Number 455, we're calling for justice for all victims of police violence. Mic check, mic check.
Mic check. Thank you, Brother Ben. And just like my brother just so eloquently said, that we're fighting for all the victims of police brutality and or murder. And I know right now we're at West Wednesday at 455 weeks. That's a very long time to be fighting to hold people accountable. But tonight, I want to talk about just healing and trauma and dealing with it. That's why tonight I elected not to have any guests on. I elected purposely not to have any guests on. And I promise you guys, I will get back to my upcoming guests that wanted to come on tonight. But I just wanted to go through a period where because I personally, in my own personal space, have been going through a whole lot. So I kind of wanted to just unpack that and just talk about healing and moving forward. Because at the end of the day, just about being humble. As we know, we go through the trauma of losing just our loved ones, whether it's through police brutality, community violence. It could be an illness. You know, it could just be one of your loved ones are incarcerated, you can't see them, isolated, or whatever the situation may be. A situation is a situation. And lots of time, because we as human beings are going through so much in our own personal circle, sometimes we take the smallest things for granted. We literally do the smallest blessings for granted because we're so focused on either things that we don't have or things that are not working right. So I just want us to kind of rewind and revamp and like turn this whole thing around and focus on what is working right and all the blessings in our lives and just kind of being there in a humbling position for everybody. Because right now it's called pretty much not filling up your cup to the point. Because if you keep on, just imagine if you are a waiter or a waitress and you're going and people are just piling up dish after dish. You're going around cleaning everybody's table. You're like, oh, I got this, and you're trying to be as humble as you could be. But if you don't take a break, all those plates popping up on top of each other are going to completely fall down. And I feel like with everybody just taking in blow after blow of different issues that we all go through. Everybody goes through something. A lot of people are not vocal. A lot of people suffer in silence. They'll sit by and they could be going through the exact same thing you're going through and you wouldn't know it. They'll greet you with a smile, but you never know what someone is carrying in the inside. And that's why tonight I'm blessed to have my dear sister Abby with us tonight. And literally, and the reason why I say I'm blessed, and like I said, we had no special guests, but as we were preparing for me to come on, and I'm like, look, this was one of those weeks that everything like that's been happening and just trying to stay focused. I'm like, I wouldn't cheat a victim's family, out of a chance, to be on here and porn. But I just feel like I want to talk to us, and I'm not a counselor or anything. I'm just a regular human being, but I want to talk about self-care. I want to talk about self-care. I want to talk about staying focused, being humble, and just knowing that you are not going through something by yourself. Or even if you feel like you are, trust me, everybody is going through something. People just don't broadcast what they're going through. Just always have that humble spirit, because at the end of the day, you know what they say when you assume. That makes a behind part out of you and me when you assume. And lots of time we do because we focus that inner spirit on ourselves and what we're going through. And lots of people I know, they're always that person that everybody calls. Everybody that's in my circle is that person that everybody calls on when they have a problem. But what about, who do we call when we have an issue? Who do we call? What do we do? So that's my whole point of talking about, so with me, real quick, going through a stressful situation that I was dealing with for the past couple of weeks. Not going to go into it because it's irrelevant. I just want to go on through how I'm moving through it, because it's still not over, because at any moment something could just go down just like that, because I didn't expect for that to go down just like that. Because the day that the situation happened, I was in happy spirits, even though we go through, like I said, fighting for police brutality and just
hearing about somebody getting murdered, whether it's by a police officer, or just murdered, or even dying, or just being sick. It's a lot. It's very traumatizing. But me, the day that I went through my situation a couple weeks ago, that day I woke up and I was feeling so good. I was feeling beautiful, and nothing couldn't blow my mind. Like, I felt so good. Like, I really felt like I was on top of the world that day. Like, I didn't feel like I was no better than nobody, but I really felt good that day. When I got out my bed, jumped in the shower, got ready for work, I was feeling lovely. And before that day could end, I felt like the whole world was tossed on top of me in a blink of an eye. And it wasn't about nobody dying, but it was just about a situation. I'm like, I felt as though it was very unfair. I'm like, where did this come from? It was just like, you gotta be kidding me. But the only thing that got me through, because at the end of the day, the enemy can work in your mind and make you feel like, oh, you're not going to get there. You can easily give up and say, you know what, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm not going to deal with this person. I'm not going to deal with this situation. But I always tell you guys, live to love and love to live. And that's what I want to talk about. And at that moment, I had to remember, like, what are the things that I love? What is my life about? And that's what kept me focused. So no matter what, you always got to remember what is working in your life. And just because you have a real bad situation does not mean that situation can't turn around and you come out on top or go through it. You might, you can live like tomorrow. Every day that we get is a day that I call it a good moment, because we can hit that reset button to where, as though, like, just imagine if, God forbid, your life ended at that moment. Then at that moment, we don't know what's on the other side. I'm praying that it's what I believe in as a Christian woman, but we honestly don't know what's on the other side. But we do know down here that if you are above ground level, that is a day to process things all over and to give it your best shot and just kind of work through things. And sometimes it's hard, but I beg you, I promise you, if you stay humbled in situations, if you calm down and assess the whole situation and count your blessings one by one, I promise you, you can get through it. And meanwhile, I'm not going to hog up the space. I want to bring Abby into this conversation just to kind of, give her input on what I'm saying, And so, Abby, what I want to talk to you about with us, just like really literally in a pandemic situation type of thing, with like everything that can stress a human being right to their max, with the news perpetuating all these crimes as though this is normal activity. And it's not. It is not normal to literally every day you got to worry about, is you going to make it to the next day, or somebody you scared to get on. Like, I'm literally, guys, I have to take a deep breath before I get on Facebook. And I'm going to tell you something. I had to laugh about it, but I'm like, oh my God, I need to take a break away from all this stuff, because it was to the point I literally got on Facebook, and it was on the Siblings Day. And my sister, she pretty much posted a picture of my children's father, and I started freaking. I'm like, oh my God, please, Lord Jesus, I know ain't nothing happened that fast. And then it was just like, oh, it's Siblings Day. And I'm like, I had to take a woosa, like, oh my God, like, so stuff is real, like, especially with every time you go on social media, society is making it so literally. I never seen so much of trauma on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, all this stuff, right? I never seen so much. And it's to the point, it's way too much. And that's why I was laughing when my friend Adina said she was going to delete everything. Like, I'm like, sis, I'm right there with you. I'm ready to hit delete. But I know I still got to get on here just to kind of talk to you guys, and just to kind of, and sometimes you guys help me get through what I go through. So I'll look at somebody that's happy. Like, and the reason why I'm glad Abby is on here, and I think everything happens for a reason, because I always think about Abby. Abby is a great note taker. Like, she, to me, like, she could be the best journalist ever. Like, she will take down your situation, write it, analyze it, break it down. Like, I call her Dr. Abby. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But I just want your take on the situation that I'm talking about, of dealing with like trauma and just turning it around and just staying focused through like all the ills of society that we are dealing with daily, every single day. I want to talk to you about that. What is your intake or input on that?
Whew. Well, I'm really honored, to be called a blessing by you. That's a really big thing. Thank you. And thank you for giving me this space. Yeah, everybody that I know in different ways is going through such a hard time right now. For some people it's more acute. For some people it's sort of the ambient energy that's going around. But it's dragging us all down. And part of it is, solitary confinement is an inhumane punishment. And in one way or another, we've all been going through that the last 2 years. Whether we've been more or less isolated, we've all been much more inside and isolated than we had been previously. And I think that has a big impact on us. So for me, part of self-care is just coming here and saying, I'm not going to stay, in my own little corner on my couch on my phone. I'm going to be a part of community and see other faces and interact with other people. That's so important. You mentioned prayer earlier when we were talking before the broadcast. And, I was so interested to read recently about brain imaging and meditation and prayer, and how they found that deep prayer and deep meditation, they both do a similar thing to the brain, where it quiets down the activity in the part of your brain that's responsible for sensing the outside world and for developing your sense of self. And so you're able to shut off that sense of you as an individual being and connect to something bigger, to the sense of oneness that's beyond us. And there's all of these documented benefits to that. So whichever one resonates more with you, finding time to do that, making the space for it, and taking it seriously, I think is a really important part of self-care. Been thinking a lot also about the importance of nature, like that we didn't evolve to live in little boxes, and that we know with an animal you shouldn't keep it in a cage in a box all day long, but we don't think about that in the same way for ourselves. And so we go all day and we don't get outside around living, growing things. And there's a ton of evidence about the benefits of that too. On the physical level, like we need the vitamin D from the sun, and that affects our mood and our sleep and our energy levels. And like, I think at least half of adults in the US are deficient in vitamin D, and we don't even know it, the way it's affecting us. We know that we feel run down, but this physical cause, is invisible. Moving your body, which is, of course, really helpful to get outside for, but just dancing in your house, putting on music for 15 minutes and dancing around, even if it has to be while you're sweeping or whatever, but just getting that movement in is such a big deal. And outside accountability, I think about the way that I feel like with the people that I talk to, my troubles and my sadness is about, I feel like, oh, you're probably tired of hearing this, I'm just complaining. But they don't feel that way. And I needed so much somebody else to like be accountable to say, all right, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And then that moves me to actually do it when I can't get myself to do it. So yeah, those are some thoughts about self-care. I've been on an ongoing project the last 3 years to break my Facebook addiction. And I still look at it, but I'm finally at the point where it's not as compulsive. And it was about posting less about like the little everyday things, saving it for when I really need advice or feedback, or have something really important to share with people. It's such a useful tool that I still feel like I can't get rid of it completely. But I do think that objectively, like on balance, the way it's set up for us to use, it ends up being bad for us more of the time than not. So I try to be real aware of that. Whew. So that's everything I got off the top of my head. I didn't prepare this speech.
No, that's
yes.
No, I definitely appreciate all of that, Abby. Like I said, I call you Dr. Abby. Like, I'm honored to be here with Dr. Abby. But like, everything you said makes sense. Like, it really does. And again, I will tell everybody, self-care is the best care, because if you don't take care of yourself, then how can you fight the ills of society or be there for someone, you have to start with yourself. If you don't love yourself, how can you love other people? You have to find love and joy in your heart for yourself. And that's not being selfish. That's taking care of yourself. And you're supposed to take care of yourself. And I love what you said about like the music, because that helps me out. Like sometimes I can just listen to I like to listen to the old songs, because the old songs, like the 90s songs and all that kind of stuff, it brings back memories of my brother and my family and stuff that makes me happy, right? So when I listen to like the 90 love song jams, that makes me really, because I'm like, when all these songs were going on, I felt like my whole entire life was beautiful. So that's why I always go to that place. And there's some songs that you listen to can be a little traumatizing too, depending on what you listen to. So just knowing like what triggers you off, and what works and what doesn't work, and it's just taking care of yourself. Like to me, I encourage everybody to journal, right? Like just get it out. Like if you're having a bad day, you don't have nobody to talk to, you don't even feel like talking to somebody, just write it down. Go get a book, notepad, just write that stuff, get it out you, because suppressing all that stuff inside of you eventually comes out, and it comes out in the wrong way. And I just ask everybody, like, love to live to love. Like that same joy that you had when you first got your job, right? That joy, like, oh, I got this new job. Sometimes you'll work it sometimes and it'll just burn out. But just remember that your job never came looking for you. You went at some point to your job and you set up for an interview because something there interests you. Whatever field it was, it interests you. So we just gotta bring ourselves back. And even like when you first got your house, your vehicle, whatever, material things, whatever, just that stuff that made you so happy to get that, keep that same energy. I know sometimes it's hard, and it's just funny how, to me, the internet, and I always say the television, just like kind of split families up. Here's this interesting thing that can literally bring people from around the world right in your living room. But then the people that are with you in your living room, you're taking time away from them, and they right there next to you, and you on the internet. You get what I'm saying? So it's like one of those give or take. So, but just taking care of yourself is very important. And a lot of time, and I know West Wednesday could be a lot, and I know this is why we don't get like the popular votes, or we done been on YouTube for God knows when, and we still don't have that many likes, shares, or whatever. But it is what it is. I just do West Wednesday, not even just for my brother Tyrone West, who was murdered. Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, and I said it never started with my brother. And unfortunately, it didn't end with my brother. It's constantly happening, right? So therefore, I feel like I'm not the only one going through this, because when anybody loved one is murdered, it hurts me, because I'm a loving person. It hurts me to see somebody else pain and trauma. So I just ask you guys, don't assume stuff about people, because guess what? The same thing you're thinking about them, they could be thinking about you. The enemy can have both of y'all minds going off at the same time. Oh, well, she acting funny. He acting funny. Whole time, both of y'all thinking that, and nobody's acting funny. That's just sometimes it's bad vibes, but it's just humbling yourself. Humbling yourself. If you don't know something, ask a question. That nips it right there. That kills the elephant in the room. Just ask that question. Be transparent with any and everybody you're dealing with. If you don't like something, say it. Because I'm the type of person, I can't be phony. I can't go by and see something happening in my face and just roll with it. I can't. But I'll be humble about it, because I try to consider people's feelings, because a lot of times people can be offensive and they don't even mean no harm. That's just maybe how they was brought up or what they're used to dealing with. And they don't mean no harm at all, but we could be offended by the smallest things or even by the biggest things. But just always humbling yourself to everybody, and just knowing that everything we go through is a blessing no matter what it is. Sometimes, us being hurt, that's not a blessing to be hurt, because I don't believe that God put us here to be like hurt and, hurtful people or hurting each other and all this stuff. But I do believe that we all are here for a reason. We all have a great purpose. Nobody's greater than anyone. We all have greatness. Everybody has a greatness, a gift inside of them. And lots of time people don't even, you'll like put your light out to make somebody else shine. You shouldn't have to dim in your light to make your friend or your man, your woman, whoever shine. Like y'all should shine together. Y'all should work together. That's the way I'm at with it. Like, love each other. And when you're going through that stuff, like, what helped me out with my situation was when I got so irritated and I was like ready to, like, you know what, I give up. But I'm like, hold up, you are not, you don't quit. You teach your children to go through stuff. Like, how you want to act like a kid because you so hurt right now? Like, cause I'm ready, like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. Like, and sometimes it's okay to be done because guess what? If it's to that point that you feel like, you know what, this is way too much, then guess what? Let it be your last day of dealing with whatever you're going through because you don't need that trauma either. So I'm not telling you, to push yourself, because guess what? Sometimes it's not even meant. It's not even worth it. Sometimes it's better to say, you know what? Let bygones be bygones. I'm moving on. Here you go. No matter what situation. If it's a job, give them your 2 weeks notice. If it's a relationship, say, hey, look, I love you, but hey, this not working out. This is not working out. Like, maybe we can love each other from afar, however, or whatever you're going through. But stop dumbing down what somebody else is going through. Lots of time people will say, well, you know what? Because their loved one wasn't murdered by an officer, they don't know what it feels like to go through pain. Guess what, boo? Pain is pain. I wouldn't give a damn if it was an officer that murdered your loved ones or somebody around the corner that murdered your loved ones, or if your loved one was on hospice care suffering from cancer or just died. That is hurtful. You're never going to see that person again. Trauma is trauma. So I'm never dumbing down. The only thing I say about police brutality is, and I'm going to always highlight that. That's why I want West Wednesday to be the sacred space to where as though we all love each other. We're fighting for these victims of police brutality and homicide, period. Because they're no longer here. Once we let their name die, guess what? Then they really die. And that's the whole reason of being going on 9 years this July. It'll be 9 years. Something I never thought. I'm thinking like literally after 5 years, we'd have had accountability. I would have been able to like live my new life as I was taught, because I felt like when I went to the Roberta's house to deal with the trauma that I sustained from losing my brother, they told me, well, you know what, Tawanda, your old life is over with. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I at first that irritated the crap out of me. What you mean my old life over with? I felt some type of way. But then I looked at it. And as I rebuilt and I journaled and I wrote down things, I'm like, hey, my old life is over with. This is my whole new life. Like, I never asked to be an activist. I never asked to be a freedom fighter. I never asked to be dealing with the stuff that I'm dealing with and doing the stuff that I'm doing. This was something, unfortunately, that to me was in the book of life. I never asked for this. I'd have rather been spending time with my loved ones right now. I'm gonna be honest. But I never asked for this. But sometimes we are forced into situations that we never asked for, and that's daily. Like a lot of time when you go through, when you change and strange, nobody wants to be broke. Who wants to be broke? And you can do everything you want to do to try to make sure that you pay your bills. But the way everything is being so high, you damn sure robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you still barely getting by. But the whole point, the fact that you're getting by, right? You have to count your blessings one by one. You have to. You don't know how much a blessing you are in someone's life. You may feel like you're nothing. You may feel like, hey, I'm overweight. I'm not looking good. Whatever you may feel in it, your feelings. But somebody may look at you like, oh my God, that's the sexiest person in America. And you feel like I'm a piece of crap. You feel like that. And they don't know what you're feeling in the inside. Or they like, oh, that's a fine young woman, or that's a fine young man, or whatever. But you never know what somebody is going through. That's why I always say, humble yourself. Because guess what? You at times can have the power to send somebody over the tipping point, or you can have the power to actually let them break through to them. And I'll give you a prime example. I remember my first night, and this was when I was dealing with like children on a whole nother level. I was a neighborhood advocate. and I would have, I was working at a group home dealing with children. I was working at a respite home dealing with foster children that was just like snatched by the system and placed into this house. And I remember my first night at work, I felt so good because I'm like, oh, I love babies. I'm going to get to go in there and see these beautiful baby faces and show them that, I'm not their parents, but I really love them. Like, this is a child. This is a blessing. So I was so excited. And I remember a little boy, I will never forget his name, Billy. And I remember he was so good. I said, Billy, he was about 10 years old. I said, Billy, go take your bath. I fed him dinner. I cooked him a nice meal. He went upstairs. He ate. And I'm like, okay. And then he said, Mr. Ward. I said, what's up? He said, you're not going to like me after the night. And I was like, what? He was like, I don't do well at night. And I was like, baby, you'll be fine. But when I say he screamed and hollered, so whatever his trauma was, every time it hit 10 o'clock at night, he would scream, cry, I want to start breaking. So he said, he called himself the werewolf. He said, the werewolf is going to come out at 10. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, he said, I'm telling you, the werewolf is going to come out at 10. So I'm like, okay, I'm thinking, is he just in his imagination type of thing? And sure enough, I'm sitting there, like I got my chair. I'm like in between in the hallway, and it's like a 5-bedroom a house, and I'm like in the middle of the hallway, so that way I could check on all 5 of the children at the time. And long story short, all I hear was stuff breaking, and I'm hearing them screaming. I'm in my mind rethinking, like, oh my God, what did I get like, how am I going to handle this situation? Like, this is my first night. Like, why couldn't this be my second, third night? But I just had to baby, can I come in there with you? Can I actually getting this permission because I didn't want to violate him? And I said, can I hold you for a second? I started off by gently. He was like, don't touch me. I was like, okay. He's like, okay, you can touch my back a little bit. So then I rubbed his back. And after a while, he was literally laying in my arms, and we got through that night. Literally, he went to sleep like 7. I said, look, I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here. He said, you still like me? I said, yeah. I said, I love you, and I'm like, he said, how are you just meeting me and you love me? I said, because you are a beautiful human being. That's why I love you. I said, we made it through last night. We both laughed about it, and me and him became best friends. I was like, oh my God, Jesus, thank God. But I just said all that to say, love breaks through any and everything that you're going through. Any and everything. So real quick, Abby, I wanted to check in with you to see if you want to add anything before I check in to see if our brother Marcellus is here to see if we got any comments or questions. Mic check.
Mic check. No, just that's a beautiful thing, and service to others is, a form of self-care, like community care. Taking care of other people takes you out of your own head and your own problems, and like you can go too far with that and sort of deflect and be like dealing with other people's problems instead of your own. But I think a healthy dose of that is really important. But no, I'm good.
Awesome, thank you. So I want to check in real quick to see if our brother Marcellus is on. Mic check.
Mic check. Can you hear me?
Yes. How you doing, Marcellus?
I'm doing well. So real quick, we have a couple comments. So on Facebook, Hillary says mic check. Gretchen says mic check. Bruce says mic check. Bruce says, how exactly do cops discover how someone might be wearing a seatbelt incorrectly? Justice for Tyrone West. Seafood says justice for Tyrone West. Hillary says Tawanda brings the wisdom always. Live to love and love to live. Nelson says mic check. Seafood says yes, meditation works wonders for me. Just 10 or 20 minutes can alter your day for the better. Bill says, good evening, everyone. Great to be here with West Wednesday. Nelson says, try going to sleep without the computer on, without the TV on, and just relax. And Angela says, self-care. Hillary says, yes, getting outside, walking, moving, meditation, using our senses to notice beautiful sounds, smells, tastes, scenery, words are mindful and simple ways to take care of ourselves. And Gretchen says, yes, one of my coworkers likes to say that self-care is a lifestyle, not a separate thing to do. Seafood says, yes, people would rather spend an hour just assuming than to take 20 seconds just to ask. And Steve on YouTube says, great to see Abby. And Nelson says, mic check. Mic check.
Mic check. Thank you, Marcellus. That was a lot, and thank you guys for tuning in. Hey, hello everybody. Big virtual hugs to everybody. So yeah, but definitely self care is very important. And again, you know, I just wanted to bring that in our space today because I just feel like I needed it as well as maybe somebody else. Like we have to take care of ourselves, guys. Like literally, and enjoy the beautiful things in life. I know that the world seems to be at its like fullest of just all this foolishness, right? Chaos and confusion everywhere. But just always reflect on your blessings because just to be able to lift your hand up is a blessing. You know, because somebody's to the point today, they probably was able to move their hand yesterday and right now they don't even have enough strength in their hand to actually lift it up. So all those things are blessings. So just keep in mind, just remember all your blessings, and then also just remember to be a blessing to somebody. Like the smallest things, even if it's financial, it don't even have to be financial. Just being a listener, just listening to somebody or checking in on somebody. You know, everybody needs love. Everybody. You know, a baby can actually die from the lack of love. I used to work at Healthy Start, and I was talking about focusing on the babies, right? The babies, right? And they talked about like babies not thriving because of love, and it showed real statistics of if you had a baby just sitting in the crib, the mama put the baby or the parents put the baby in the crib, didn't show them no love. That baby could die from a lack of love. And that was sad and it was true. I saw a statistic. I witnessed real women go through that. I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe like a lot of young teenagers that didn't know like what to do about having a baby. They were a baby themselves but didn't know. Just like, I'm gonna go lay this baby down and the baby crying and they just being a teenager, being a baby, you know. So just remember, love is the key to life. I don't care what you're going through. Even when you're angry with your significant other, give them a hug or a kiss. Because guess what? It's going to come a time, unfortunately, where you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to do that. So enjoy all your blessings while we have them. Count them one by one. Like enjoy life, like because that's what it's about. It's about enjoyment, and it's not only just about enjoyment. It's about being a blessing to someone else. Everyone is a blessing to someone else, but only if we share ourselves and make ourselves available, not taking away and taking on everybody's stress. I'm not saying that, but just being a kind friend, a listener, or whatever way you can support. And a lot of times, like I said, people can look at your outer shell and assume something. They don't know you got harder times than what they're going through. They have no idea what it is to walk in your shoes unless you take them off and give them to them. And trust me, if they can get a glimpse at looking at your shoes into your life, I guarantee you they'll turn it down. They will walk away like, keep them shoes on. I don't want them. So I just wanted to tell y'all, just remember, everything is not what it appears. And I'll tell you a story real quick. And then unfortunately, we're going to go into our sad list. I'm going to check back in with Abby before we do and things like that. But I wanted to tell you a story, and it was pretty much, and the author has always been unknown, but it was a story, and it always was a unique story to me, but it was a story about two people being in an airport, and one person had opened up, went to the vending machine, got a bag of peanuts, and was sitting there, opened them up, put them down or whatever, and was, talking or whatever, cell phone answered, got distracted, was talking. Next thing you know, they looked over, and they see the person next to them eating their peanuts, and they're in their mind like, you gotta be kidding me. This rude butthole, like they're just saying all type of obscenities in their mind. Like, I cannot believe that he is eating my peanuts. You gotta be kidding me. So then they get mad and snatch the peanuts. And then the other person like gets up, roll their eyes like, you gotta be kidding me, and walks away. And the person after that moment got on the phone and they were talking. They had to call. It's like, oh, I'm going to jump on my flight. Before I go on my flight, I just wanted to tell you Do you know that I was sat by this rude person? I don't know if they thought I was that distracted because I'm on this phone. They had the nerve to eat damn near all my peanuts. Like the nerve of people these days, they're so crazy. And as they're going into to get their, they was going into their purse to get their little their little ticket off. I can't think of it. It's just so crazy right now. But they were going to get their pass, their boarding pass out. They noticed that not only did they have the person that they just took bag of peanuts, they had their own bag of peanuts that was open, that was barely eaten out of. And it was like, they felt so bad. It was like, oh my gosh, like, because they were distracted with their phone, and the person. So my whole point of that's the truth in that. Like, sometimes you be thinking something, you be the bad guy. The whole time you the bad guy, you not even knowing it. And I thought that story always rubbed well with me. And I have a real life story that I want to share, and I'll never forget. So when I was growing up, I'll never forget. And this is when I was living and this is when I got my first apartment, and I'm living there or whatever. So I moved really quick because I had a slumlord, and I'm like, I'm only gonna be back at my mom's house not even a month because I'm waiting for this other apartment to go through, because you couldn't tell me I wasn't grown. I'm like, okay. And it wasn't the fact that I had two small children, but it was the fact that I'm like, I've been on my own. I'm not going back to my mother type of thing. So my mom was like, look, you can be in there with this slumlord, but you're not gonna have my two grandbabies in there freezing. And so she took my oldest two out, and I after me freezing, I'm like, I'm going over mom's house. I couldn't take it no more because, like, literally I had no heat, and the heat was sort of included in my rent. I had no heat in the wintertime. I'm in there freezing, like, oh my God, but that's a whole nother story. So I decided to listen to my mom and move back to my mom's house for like a good month or whatever. And long story short, I was irritated because I wasn't able to get I had a dining room set of 6 chairs, 6 brown chairs. And I was only able to get 5 because I was rushing that day, and I left one in the apartment. I was like, oh my goodness. And then the landlord, he was mad, of course, because I put his money in escrow. So he was like, you're not coming to get anything back. I can't get my rent money, blah, blah. So that was a whole nother story. And I was just like, I really felt. So every time I literally walk past my old apartment, I would think about my brown chair. And I'm like, I'm so mad I can't get him out. It was to the point I'm like, I want to go inside my old apartment. I wish he didn't change the lights. I would go in there and get my chair because it's messing my dining room set up now. Now I moved into my new house. I'm like, but I only had 5 chairs. It's awkward. I need my 6th chair. So long story short, I'm talking about it. I'm telling my brother Tyrone about it. So one day, my youngest brother, me and Tyrone, he and me talk about this shit. He's like, sis, get over it. You wearing it in a whole, I'll buy you a whole new dining room set. Like, just give me like a month to save up my money or whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm not worried. But I'm like, that's not that shit. Like, it was just, I thought this was the best dining room set ever. So long story short, my brother in the house, he's working out. Then my little brother at the time, he's like 8 years old. He sees a security guy. No, matter of fact, let me go back real quick. So one day I'm coming home from school. I get off the bus and I see the security guard guy sitting on my chair. So I'm livid. I'm like, oh my God, that guy is sitting on my chair. I said, the landlord would not let me get my chair. Do you know he got the security guard sitting in my chair in front of my apartment on my chair? I was really mad. I'm like, oh, I'm so mad. I wish I was bold enough to go snatch my chair. So long story short, I'm studying. Now I'm getting real irritated. And as the devil would have it, I'm getting worked up. So to the point, it irritated my 8-year-old baby brother at the time. He literally, one day he was going to like the little corner store, and he noticed the chair too. He noticed the security guard, but he waited till the security guard went into the store, and he grabbed my chair. He ran all the way home. He beating on the door like, hey, Tawanda, come on, open the door. Open the door. So I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, I got your chair. I'm hugging him like, yes. So then my brother Tyrone came. He was like, boy, that's things like, why would you take that chair? What if the security would have thought you was? He's like, what is our sister chair? I'm like, right, it's my chair. Like, I can prove it's my chair. Like, I got the chair they took. I used to live there. I got the old lease. I'm like going for it. So my brother Ty was like, sis, that ain't even your chair. I'm like, oh, it's my chair. Why this chair had a gold bar at the bottom of it. And I felt so bad. And my brother told me, Tyrone said, listen, sis, let that be a lesson in life. He said, the devil can't do anything without God permission. The only thing he can do, make everything into illusion, make you believe stuff, but he cannot touch you. He can't do nothing. You can only drive your own self crazy and entertain that foolishness. Just because something looks one way does not mean it's that way. And I always carried that with me. Because I to this day, like, I still have that chair. I look at that chair when I want to think somebody acting funny or whatever, which way, I always think about that chair. It's in my mind. Like, I don't physically have a chair no more, but I always think of that chair, and I still see that big gold medal thing that I never paid any mind, because the guy, he was always sitting with his legs crossed and just sitting, and it was blocking it. But I always remember that chair. So, and that reminded me of that peanut story, because I'm here, I go snatching it, or my little brother snatching it, ain't even my chair, and I'm like, oh my God. So I just said that to say, live to love, love to live. So I want to check back with you, Abby, before I check back in with Marcellus, and we're going to go to our say it list. Mic check.
Mic check. Thank you.
Mic check.
Yeah, reminds me of a tip I was given for happiness years ago. And I don't do this in every situation. And sometimes it's not always safe to assume people have good motivations. But as a day-to-day practice, to assume, whatever happens that annoys you in life, that somebody has the best reason possible. That if someone does something crazy in traffic, maybe they're in the car with somebody who's having a heart attack, and they're going to the ER. You don't know. Mm-hmm. And assuming that they're doing it just because they're an a-hole, doesn't get you anything but more aggravation. Whereas assuming that they're doing it for a real reason, can like calm your mind down. So what's the better thing to do for you? That's all I got. I'll pass it on to Marcellus.
All right. Did I hear Uncle Bill?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Uncle Bill. Do you want to add to the conversation? Mic check.
If you like.
Sure.
All right, let me turn this on.
Yeah, I know you're late, but we were talking about being humble and just like enjoying life, and that's why I was telling everybody that I decided not for us to have any special guests tonight. And I was just sharing like a little tale of me and Tyrone. And it always something that resonated, because Tyrone, like, to me, like I said, was my big brother, my father figure, my everything. And that was just like a life lesson that I wanted to share. And I know that you're one that always have like a little quick story or whatever. So I wanted to know if you wanted to share anything about like being humble and just all the stuff that we're seeing that's going on that's kind of traumatizing nowadays, and just kind of looking at the best of everything and not just looking at the bitter side, because we can easily, everybody can say that, something is not working in their life, because we all go through things as human beings. You get what I'm saying? But yep. Just wanted to see if you wanted to add to the conversation. Mic check.
Mic check. So I was here for a good bit so far. I love that story about the chair. That's a good one. A part of the discussion was about dealing with adversity and dealing with difficult situations. So I'll comment on that.
Okay.
There's a philosophy that I think is real helpful called dialectical philosophy. And one of the concepts in there is that things exist in paired opposites. So for example, if someone has a certain amount of selfishness and lack of caring, the opposite is probably inside them also. So even if you had some really self-centered people who don't care much about others, if they were outdoors somewhere and there was a baby in a carriage and the carriage started to tip over, I think all of them would love trying to protect that child. And that there's that good side in nearly everyone. So one of the outgrowths of that understanding that things exist in paired opposites is that history presents no problem for which the solution does not already exist. Because if the problem exists and things exist in paired opposites, the solution must already exist. So I'll tell a little story about dealing with that. As you may know, Poly and City have this historic rivalry between the two schools. And I was a teacher at Poly, and one of the subjects I was teaching was drama. And we had an arrangement with Everyman Theater that we could take our students there to see the shows for free. And they provided the buses. They came out to the school beforehand to prep the young people about the play. They came out after with some of the actors to interact and discuss the play. So we're down there, and later on, we earned their confidence, and they would give us the whole theater, and we could bring like 4 or 5 buses of students. But in the beginning, we only got half the theater. And it so happened on one day that Poly was coming there and City was coming there. And we were there first from Poly. And I had a student who was sitting in a row in front of me as we were waiting for the City students to arrive, and after that for the show to start. And he had some mental health issues, and he stands up and gives the finger towards the door as the City students were about to come in. And keep in mind, there had been some like fights at some of the Poly City games in recent years prior to that. And I was really worried that this young man doing this might spark some kind of a fight right in the theater. So I decided I had to stop him. And I asked him, and he wouldn't stop. And so I was right behind him. So I kind of mushed him to the side, and that got his attention. And he turned around. He wanted to take his belt off and fight me. But that was good because he was no longer at risk of starting a problem there. And I was within the legal framework, because if there's a situation of imminent violence, teachers are supposed to use the minimum necessary force to solve the problem. But when I got back to the school and the principal heard that story, he and I were on a warpath, because I was the union person at the school and we'd had a number of differences. So he then issues a policy that I cannot take any students on trips anymore ever. And for the drama program, there were 4 trips to the theater each year. And for the English classes I taught, we went to the main library to get started on their research papers. And that was going to be very hard on the success of those programs and what the students needed. So I'm thinking, how do I solve this? The problem was that he had issued this strict rule, no more trips. So I finally realized I have to take the opposite approach, and I filed a union grievance. And another teacher who was on the trip wrote a statement in support of how I would handle things. And in the grievance hearing, we were successful, and the principal was found to be wrong. So it's just a little example of sometimes it's helpful, I think, when we're facing a really tough situation, to keep in mind that things exist in paired opposites. And if there's a problem, there's also a solution if we think hard enough to find it. So I just wanted to say that.
That was great, Uncle Bill. That was really on point, on target. I love it. That was really great. And with the situation that I was going through that I didn't disclose, I'm like, it gotta be a solution to this. Like, this is not just gonna go out like that. And I started working on a solution, just want a solution. And yeah, so I love that. And I'm glad that situation worked out. And I love how you did that. So in hard times, guys, remember, there's a problem, but there's always a solution. And that's the best, because a lot of time we think we'll let the problem overtake us, right? Instead of dealing with, like, what's the solution? We'll just get off. And I wanted to say something like, one of my family members had sent me a clip, and I'll share with you guys later, but it was talking about, like, it was a storyteller. I believe his name was Tony, but he was sharing, like, what he would do was get real crime situations, and he shared a story, and what he would do is, like, narrate what happened. Like, so he showed the picture of this guy wind up getting, like, life plus 73 years or something, and him and his neighbor got into it over a parking spot. But the thing that I loved about it was a heartbreaking story, because my heart went out for the whole entire situation. My heart was just broke. But I liked the way he broke it down. It was just like saying, like, instead of us, like, kind of beefing things, like, sometimes we'll just act off of anger and emotion and go to that next level instead of, like, assessing what's going on and realizing that, if we realize what we're going to lose before we jump into that situation, 9 times out of 10 you wouldn't do it. 9 times, and that's the truth. So I think if we're, like, going through something, whether it's like a personal beef in our own space or with somebody that you don't like or whatever, just worry about, to me, like, the consequence that comes with your action. Because unfortunately, with everybody actions, even we don't see it with these killer cops or whatever, but everybody has consequences to their actions. Trust and believe. Sometimes we might don't get to see it, but everybody has consequences to their actions. And just remember, before you act out, there's always a consequence to your action. You know, think about that before you like dive head on first, because emotions could take you on that dive. You like, you know what? I'm ready to do this, and then think about it. You know, think about the long lasting impression that you will have and how you gotta fight through. Like how from one mistake could cost you a whole lot. And I don't want to talk and beat the world up because everybody tired of hearing about what happened with the celebrity. Well, but I look at celebrities as not just a celebrity, as a human being. The unfortunate thing that happened with Will Smith and Chris Rock. You know, that was, heartbreaking to me on all levels. And that's a whole nother conversation. But at the end of the day, sometimes we really got to think about our actions before we jump out there, because it's so sad. As hard as you can work to build something up, as soon as you do that one thing wrong, oh, you the bad guy. You the bad person now. And that's so sad. But that's what we got to deal with life, and people don't know what you're mentally going through. So I urge you, if you're mentally going through something, please seek help. It doesn't make you crazy or all these little stereotypes. Please get help. Please don't suffer in silence. Please get help. There are lots of crisis lines you can call that can tie you in. I wish I had a resource list, but please get help. Because once you start talking about things, trust me, getting it out, and like Uncle Bill just said, for every problem, there's a solution. And once we kind of work through things, we'll realize that, and then it's more easier. Not going to say that it's going to be always like sugar, peaches, and cream, because it's not. But the fact that we know that we can kind of work through it, that's the part that I think is promising. That's where hope comes in. Because if I didn't have hope, like even though that this dirty system shows me daily that all the corruption you see over and over and over again, right? You know, it's traumatizing, and it makes you to the point that say, you know what, I'm gonna give up. But that's what the system wants you to do. I would never give up. I don't care how long it takes. My hope keeps me going, because my hope, my faith, all of that, keeps me going, because I believe, just like our brother Maurice, may he rest in peace, always say, until we win. I'm here until we win. I ain't going nowhere until we win. I am here. And to me, what winning is not meaning getting a monetary substance. Winning to me is getting criminal charges, accountability, and making sure another family goes through what we're going through. And speaking of families, I want to give a big shout out, virtual hug to Dante Wright's family. He was executed last year, around this time last year. I think yesterday was his 1 year commemoration, and that's just heartbreaking. A young man literally just murdered, and then the murderer walks away. A murderer gets to laugh on her mugshot and get pretty much two freaking years. Like, that is disgusting. And I can't believe a year. Time just go by so fast. I cannot believe a year went by that fast. But even though I'm not in the hometown or where Dante Wright is, but we're going to uplift Dante Wright in whatever which way we can help secure accountability to the fullest extent of the law. We're going to do that. We're in position. I'm saying in a position with all the victims of police brutality. That's why I don't ever want us to be distracted or deteriorated for what we're fighting for. We are here for the victims of police brutality. Let's be clear. If anybody just watching this for the first time or think somebody got some political gain, no, we are here for the victims of police brutality and murder. And that's why we as a West Coalition Collective have been demanding answers from our state's attorney, Marilyn Mosby, who to this day we just heard about her, running again. And she didn't do her legal work. We can hear about that, but you haven't still gotten back to me and my family to let us know if you're going to bring charges to those 17 murders that murdered one unarmed man. We demand answers, Marilyn Mosby. And even your up-running candidates, I don't care whoever secures that seat. Once election day has passed, we're going to hold all you guys accountable. Until we get accountability, we're holding you guys accountable. because you have family lives in your hand. We can't push charges against police officers. I mean, there's certain ways that we can, because I done had many sisters or moms that came here and said, well, you can fight to go to the grand jury, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, we should not do any of that. We have elected officials that is supposed to do their job. We're not asking you to do us no favors, no side hustles. All we're asking you to do is your job. We still are demanding Timothy Fleming. Oh my God, it's going to go on to a whole year since Timothy Fleming was murdered, guys. And that family, our family, because unfortunately, this is a family that nobody signed up to be in. Timothy Fleming's family, us, we want answers. We want his autopsy report. We want, how sick is that? It was really sick and disgusting for me and my family, my brother, children, all that, waiting 154 days just to get a partial autopsy report. They're lying, nothing but lies. But the fact that they're supposed to be working on the medical examiner's office and how they do things, it really got me scratching my head. You can take a person's autopsy, something so sacred as an autopsy report. What the hell are you guys hiding? What, they gotta wait 2 years for it? That is sick, disgusting. And that's what we're going through, and that's why we're here. And I'm standing in solidarity with the 18-year-old baby, Darnell Rochester's family. That baby deserves accountability. We know what we saw on that goddamn video. We saw an officer jump in position in front of a car, right? Of a scared baby that was not breaking the law or doing anything. This baby was seconds. This baby was supposed to graduate from high school. All that got snatched at a blink of an eye when this killer cop decides to jump in the street and then yelling foolishness. Gun, 5 shots being fired. How the hell you going to jump in front of a car and yell shots fired when you're the one shooting at the damn car? This is an unarmed child. Young man, a baby. Because to me, 18 years old, you are a baby. I got an 18-year-old baby. You're a young man, you're growing, you got your life to live, but I'm still teaching my son things. It's things he learned, he in college, all that stuff, all that good stuff. You know what I mean? But for you to take a baby's life, we demand accountability. I'm so sorry that his family, and I'm really praying for the mother, this was her only baby. And as you can see videos, if you go on his page, they were like this. They were just like this, dancing together, singing together. That was the apple of her eye. I got 4 babies. Each and every last one of mine, all 4 of mine, the apple of my eyes. Every last one of mine. I love them equally the same. Even though we have different relationships, I love all mine the same. And I just wanted to let y'all know, we have to stand with these families. It's sad times that we're going through. We're coming up shortly on my brother's birthday, and I'll be letting you guys know our plans, and we're going to do an event and where we're going to be at type of thing, because I'm planning to do something at City Hall the week before his birthday. We're going to be at outside West Windsor, so I will keep you guys posted. But my brother should be here. My brother should be here. Not just my brother. All the victims. Timothy should be here. We're coming up on his year anniversary. Not even anniversary, because anniversary is something you celebrate. Commemoration. And they still don't got no answers. And guess what? Unfortunately, the babies are still in their home. We done did a GoFundMe, all that. Why should we have to have done a GoFundMe from the start? But anybody knows it's not even just about a dollar bill. It's still protocols and things that you got to do. I appreciate it. Everybody that donated or whatever. That's beautiful. Thank you guys so much. But them babies are still in their house. And not one elected official went and embraced Timothy Fleming's family. Not one elected official that I know of embraced it, the baby's family, the 18-year-old Darnell Rochester's family. And that is sad and disgusting to me. But what would happen if those were their loved ones? That's what I wanted to talk about. That's why I said let's deal with being humble. Because guess what? The tables can always turn. You could be on top of the world and then feel like the whole weight of the world is on top of you in a blink of an eye. Love up on people now while you got them, because tomorrow, the second, this day is not promised to nobody, guys. Nobody. And right now, I want to send prayers out to my warrior brother who's in the hospital. I don't know what's going on, but I do know we're soliciting prayers for Eddie Conway, because I jumped on Facebook yesterday and I saw my sister Nicole. She said please keep Eddie Conway in the prayer. And I don't know what's going on. And I was like, my heart dropped. I'm like, and I just started crying on my lunch break. So I don't know what's going on with our brother Eddie Conway. But please, guys, keep our brother Eddie Conway in prayer. He's a real, true revolutionary fighter that fights this system. And I remember our brother reaching out to me. And when he came home and he started working with the Real News, he said he used to watch me in his jail cell and said he could not wait to come out there and highlight my brother's name. And he did that. We did a shutdown in Towson, thanks to Eddie Conway. Let's be crystal clear. That was Eddie Conway that took me and my family. And he did the interview exclusively on the Real News Network. That was Eddie Conway. So I'm just praying. Prayer works. I'm praying that whatever that's going on, I'm not even concerned with it, because I'm not the nosy type. All I know is that man need a prayer. Let's say one. If you don't pray, keep him in thought. Just lift his spirits. A beautiful soul. Anybody knows him, that laugh, that smile. Oh my God, I don't even want. Let me shift gear, because I see Abby rubbing her eyes, and I'm about to start rubbing mine. So yeah, but anyway, just wanted to just say, guys, while you hear me now, I love all of y'all in my own special way, just for always being here, so dedicated, year after year, day after day, second after second. I just love you guys. And even though lots of times, sometimes we don't agree with we have differences, right? But we all can work through those differences. That's the beautiful part, because love always leads the way. Just remember, love, that beautiful love. Love breaks through everything. I always said, live to love to live. I said that before my brother passed away. He said, "Sis, why you always say that?" Because that's what stuck and resonated in my head. I've been saying that for years. Live to love to live. Because once you do it together, once you love to live, you have that passion just to live, then you can bring life to other people. Because there's a lot of souls right now that feel like they're dying. They're physically here, but they're not here. They're disconnected. They don't even know their greatness. Sometimes we got to pull out their greatness. A compliment goes a long way, guys. That one compliment, you see somebody on the street, you say, "Oh, I like that jacket," or "You got a beautiful smile," that could brighten up somebody's whole day, turn somebody's whole life around. You just never know. And the tongue is a very, very powerful thing. And sometimes you can offend somebody with that tongue. That tongue could be so evil, and that tongue could be so sweet. Just remember, my mother always taught me, Shirley Anderson said, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything. That's where humbleness and integrity comes in. We ain't always got to agree, but guess what? Be respectful. Don't say something to somebody that you won't want them to say to you. I teach my little babies that every day. My babies that I gave life to, and my babies that I'm blessed to teach and pour into their life every day. I teach them, treat people the way you want to be treated. If everybody lived like that, do you know how beautiful this world would be? The only thing we would have to worry about is just physical illness that takes our life. We wouldn't have to worry about nobody killing each other. We wouldn't have to worry about none of this extra nonsense that we go through daily. People hating on each other. It's sad. It's disgusting. It is so disgusting. It is so sad. And again, my prayers are with Keith Davis Jr. because I was on Kelly page and it made me a little sad when I saw that Keith was feeling. She was saying, pray for Keith Davis. I'm not the nosy type. I'm not going to call, hey, I don't need to know. All I've been doing was praying for Keith Davis Jr. to get him out that space of feeling like, and We don't know what that man felt like. Just imagine you in a cell for 6 years for a crime you didn't do. Just imagine how you would feel if you woke up on the other side and you're inside physically. And this man, he ain't going to a cell just walking to. He went to a cell gunned down. He went to a cell where as though our state's attorney wouldn't even sign a piece of paper to the damn near the last minute. To as though they can't even, he still got a bullet in him that they can't even move. Was shot at over 30 something times. But the saddest part, they would shoot at a human being over 30 something times, but they wouldn't do an animal like that. And I gave you guys a real life situation when I was on here last time live. I gave you the statistic. I don't have my book with me, but I told you about the young lady. A true story. It was a young lady that was dog watching. Enjoyed what she was a beautiful young lady, around 21. Dog watching. And literally got her face ripped off, got like mold over her whole entire body. Over 80%. She have to go through surgery. It's like she's suffering. And when the police arrived at the scene, and I believe one of the dog names was Betcher or Fetcher or something. I can't remember the name. I'm horrible with names. I can't even remember human being names. More or less a dog name, but I'm horrible with names. Sorry, don't judge my heart. But long story short, this young lady could have died. And the only reason why she survived because the alarm went off. She was able to, so I think the dogs went out the door and the alarm system came on because she was inches away from fading away. Almost died. And when the police arrived at the scene, they was able to take these dogs that had terrorized her, tore her skin off. Oh my God, she already done been through 3 major surgeries. And it's just horrible. And she still have to go to surgery after surgery. But yet, I was telling you about the story of a young man that they showed to release the body footage. Whereas though they said he bit an officer and the officer gunned him down. One bite, a human bite, and you gun a man down. And we saw what happened to the young man that was laying on his couch that had a weapon permit to carry a weapon. And he's living in a state where you can carry a weapon, and then you're in a state and in the city and where you live at, crime is on the arouse, right? People are murdering each other, people breaking in, doing home invasions. And what did they do? The same thing they did to our sister Breonna Taylor. Went in our sister Breonna Taylor's home, tried to execute her husband, our boyfriend, and they killed this beautiful queen. We still don't have no accountability for Breonna Taylor. And he defended her. And they tried to take him out. And he was able to beat those charges, and he should have been. We still have no charges on those killer cops. But this poor young man that was killed on February the 22nd, I'm sorry I can't think of a name because it's too many names, right? They just said they're not charging anyone. And I love what the mother said. She said, guess what? Look at this face. Get used to it because you're going to see me. Everywhere these officers go, she's going to be there. That's just how we are. And I'm so glad. If I don't do anything else, I know for a fact, and I speak with great joy and gladness, that people know about West Wednesday worldwide. Even if it's not something popular, but people know about West Wednesday worldwide. And just like Stephon Clark family started a Stephon Sunday because they said West Wednesday inspired them. And my sister, she started, I think it's Fluid Friday for her brother, right? Where they go out and protest. So if nothing else changed, we ain't going for it no more. We controlling that damn narrative. Y'all won't. So look at our faces, because guess what? We ain't going nowhere. We don't care what y'all do, how y'all try to do it. We still here. We here for the long haul. So I'm going to go and check in with our brother Marcellus. Mic check.
Mic check.
All right, so we have a few comments. Sifu says, we need to fight for justice and to see it. We don't invest in things that we don't think we'll ever see. Justice and accountability should be no different. Thank you to Wanda for your insight. AC Britt says, LOL, got that chair back. Bill says that's too funny about the chair, and good lesson. AC Britt says wrong chair, heart. Very uplifting tonight. Bill says until we win. AC Britt says hashtag we want answer. They're supposed to be professionals in forensics, so it makes no sense that they seem to be floundering in their job duties. Sequel says justice for Donnell Rochester. That hospital was just down the damn street. His life just didn't matter. Bill says yes, accountability for Donnell Rochester. AC Britt says the city should have stepped up for those babies. Angela says mic check. We want an answer. AC Britt says sending light and love to Eddie Conway. Free Keith Davis Jr. Sending him and Kelly family light and love. And always no charges for the killer police, no matter the town, city, state. And justice for Amir Locke.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, and Amir Locke. Thank you so much for putting his name out there, Amir Locke. Thank you so much. And also, like Seifu said, and I'm glad he brought this up real quick before we go to our sad list tonight. They let this poor baby, literally the same way my brother was murdered in that same community, right, by Northeast Police District. They did the same exact thing with Tyrone West. Literally, they could have rolled him to Good Sam Hospital. Not even 2-3 minutes away, they left my brother out there to die after they slaughtered him and let David Killer Lewis, a 320-plus pound man, sit on my brother's dying neck till my brother was dead after being beat, pepper sprayed, tortured, right? Well, when in Donald Rochester's case, he's crying for help. He's saying, I can't breathe, all this stuff. And literally, no one put him in a police car, rode him to the hospital around the corner. They let him stay over 30-something minutes to die out. They did that. That's designed on purpose. Don't think it was something that, oh my God, that just happened. No, that was what they wanted to happen. They wanted to make sure they were dead, that their mission was accomplished. Legalize genocide, because you know why? They can do it. And it's unfortunate and it's very sad and very disgusting that you could play with a human life. What would have happened if they would have got that baby to Good Sam? What would have happened if they got my brother Tyrone West to Good Sam and he was pepper sprayed, tortured, and then face down in a prone position? That wasn't no accident. They wanted to murder him. They wanted to make sure he couldn't breathe. They wanted to reassure that. And that's exactly what they did. So let's be clear. It wasn't, oh my goodness, it was a mistake. No, they was like, you know what? Let him die. Let me turn my back. We can't turn our backs, and we won't. We demand answers. Not just for Tyrone West, but for Donnell Rochester, for all the victims, Timothy Flemings, Anthony Anderson, the list goes on. All these victims. We demand accountability. We demand that. So I want to check in real quick with the sad homicide list. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check. Okay. Tawanda, thank you. I originally thought I had a short list today, but I did a little more research and have a fairly long list today. So maybe this will be a shorter list next week. I don't know. I think that that part of our taking care of ourselves is taking care of other people, and not only giving them the love and support when they're undergoing tragedy, but also just being kind to them in our normal day-to-day lives with them, and being humble ourselves, and trying not to put our assume that what's important to us is important to them, and being open to hear what they have to say. But right now in this space, I want to raise up the people and send some support and some prayers to the people who will be missing them and whose lives have been so brutally changed. So if you could just lift up their names after I say them. These are starting on the 2nd of April and going through to the 10th of April, beginning with Joshua Whittington.
Joshua Whittington.
Shamal Scott.
Shamal Scott.
Quallen Ray.
Quallen Ray.
Troy Gross.
Troy Gross.
Sophia Wilkes.
Sophia Wilkes.
Dante Breeden.
Dante Breeden.
Corell McQueen.
Corell McQueen.
Jarek Mitchie.
Jarek Mitchie.
And Stephen Carter.
Stephen Carter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just wanted to apologize because normally before we go into the sad list, we always take 1 or 2 minutes just to kind of, because these are human beings, these are families. The heart goes out because one of the victims on there was a mother, and literally someone came to her house and murdered her. And I'm praying that none of those babies saw it, and it's just horrible and sad, like all these murders. So I'm not downplaying any of these murders. Anybody that Brian just said, this is just awful. So I just want to show the families respect. If you pray, say a prayer. If you want to just keep them in thought, keep them in thought. Because as we, as Christians, me, myself, not the West Coalition, because I don't force my religion on anyone, but as we're getting forward and closer to resurrection, which they call Easter, this Sunday, things like that, I call it Resurrection Day. Because I believe that God gave his only begotten son, Jesus Christ, so we could have everlasting life and live it to their fullest. So I want to just say a prayer. If you pray,
I think Tawanda's feed froze. She'll be back with us in a moment. Marcellus, Tawanda's feed froze. If you want to take this time to read some more comments.
Sure. Mic check.
Mic check.
AC Britt said, "What happened?" Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check. All right, Tawanda's feed is dropped and she is rejoining. Stand by. Tawanda, mic check. Oh, and she dropped again. Stand by. Tawanda, mic check.
mic check, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened. It just dropped. But again, I don't know if you guys gave the minute. I was saying pretty much, if you pray, let's keep the family in prayers. If you don't, that's fine too. Please keep sending love, thoughts, well wishes. Let's take 2 minutes, please, for the families. Mic check.
Mic check.
Thank you again, guys, for praying, and thank you, brother Brian, for reading that horrible, sad list. Nobody family wants to be on a list, and now those family lives have changed forever. So unfortunately, I'm going to pass it over for our sad list of police brutality as well. Mic check.
Mike, check.
Mic check.
Mike.
So this evening, as we uphold the names of people recently killed by the police, we'll be covering people whose lives were stolen between March 31st and April the 5th. So that's about 5.5 days. I say 5.5 because on the 31st, we had already announced several people who were killed by the police. And on the 5th of April, we may not yet know everyone who was taken. But the fact that there are 15 stolen lives by the police over 5.5 days is fairly consistent with the rate of killing by police. As we know, they kill about 1,100 people a year, which works out to a little over 3 a day. And 3 a day would make 15 people with stolen lives over these 15 days. So just wanted to add that. We ended last week announcing the death of someone whose name had not yet been announced. And we just said that he came from Columbia Township, Michigan, and he was 36 years old. His name has since been added to the Washington Post list, and I'd like to start by upholding this victim of police murder, Eric Nielsen.
Eric Nielsen.
Eric Nielsen.
Also on March 31st, 39 years old, killed by police, Michael Stockton.
Michael
Stockton.
Once more on March 31st, this man has not yet been identified. He was killed by police in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Ashe. On April the 1st, 35 years old, killed by police in Youngstown, Ohio, James Sheets.
James
Sheets.
Again, on April the 1st, 63 years old. This was in Spartanburg County, South Carolina, Jimmy Whiteside.
Jimmy Whiteside.
In Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, on April the 2nd, a man was killed by police not yet identified, Ashe.
Killer cops in cell blocks, Ashe.
Thank you. April the 2nd again, 39 years old, killed by police in Charlestown, Tennessee, Jerry Livingston.
Larry Livingston.
Larry Livingston.
Once more on April the 2nd, killed by police in Savannah, Georgia, 31 years old, James Miller.
James Miller.
On April the 3rd in Newport, Tennessee, 34 years old, killed by police, Christopher Hudson.
Christopher
Hudson.
April the 3rd in Oak Forest, Illinois, 21-year-old woman, Keturah Wilson.
Keturah Wilson.
Grand Rapids, Michigan, on April the 4th, 26 years old, Patrick, I believe that his last name is pronounced Loyola.
Patrick
Loyola.
On April the 4th in Europa Valley, California, a man was killed by police. We don't know his age, and he has not yet been identified. Ashe.
Justice for all victims, Ashe.
In Laketon Township, Michigan, on April the 5th, 37 years old, killed by police, Joseph Miller.
Joseph Miller.
In Cheyenne, Wyoming, on April the 5th, 31 years old, killed by police, Rance Tillman.
Rance
Tillman.
And the last person whose name we'll uphold this evening, from Swan Quarter, North Carolina, 67 years old, on April the 5th, killed by police, Willie Blount.
Willie
Blount.
Mic
Mic check.
check.
Mic check.
So that was heartbreaking. Oh man, it's like, oh my God. So again, I'm praying for all the families that were murdered. There's a life that is snatched forever, a blessing that is snatched forever. So it's so unfortunately, but it just leaves us with the question, what are we going to do as human beings to reassure another human being's life? Everybody deserves the pursuit of happiness. And that's, to me, living an abundant life to the fullest. So again, I want to thank Abby for coming into the space unexpectedly and unplanned. I want to thank Uncle Bill for adding his powerful testimony. And I like what he said. For every problem, there is a solution. And I just want to thank each and every last person that tuned in, comment, watch, liked, or shared. And if you haven't got a chance on YouTube, please hit the like, subscribe, and share button, please. That's all I ask you to do. You know, I know it's not a popular conversation, you know, but it is one that's worthy of having. It is one that is very important, and it's one to actually bring us awareness of what's really going on through all the distractions. Meanwhile, while we're overwhelmed, overstimulated, just over it, somebody is getting murdered, and that is devastating. That ain't like something that you can say, oh my God, like that is horrible. It's bad enough that people are just dying from illness, sickness, or just natural causes, just dying, right? But to have someone be murdered, straight murdered, they deserve to go back home to their family. But unfortunately, they went to a morgue, and that is very heartbreaking. So as we live to love, love to live, remember, take care of yourself, and most importantly, let's take care of each other. Let's fight this system together, because it's a well fight, it's a well-needed fight. And while we're sitting back and they're trying to, like, the media is trying to pick who our next state's attorney is going to be, don't let them choose for us. You be the, you do your work, do your research, and pick people that's going to really take care of us. You know, and it's just sad, we're in real sad times right now, but we deserve answers. We deserve accountability. And everybody deserves a pursuit of happiness. Remember, live to love, love to live. I love you all. And unfortunately, we had to bring you a painful video of the first killer, Ruiz, that started murdering my brother on July the 18th, 2013. And I'm just thinking about literally the day before, on the 17th, he almost killed Darrell Harris, talking about in the proper way of a seatbelt. Making up stuff. Like, how can you put your seatbelt on improperly, like my brother Seifu said? How can that happen? But as we greeted you, please watch the video to the end, share it, and thanks again for your times, because I know you guys could have been anywhere tonight, enjoying the spring, beautiful weather. You could have been walking, strolling, or wherever, but the fact that you're here with us tonight, thank you guys so much. Live to love, love to live. Please take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of nobody. Just remember, for every problem, there is a solution. Let's work together. Love you guys. Mic check.
Mic check.
Excuse me.
Mic check.
And Mr. West begging for his life, and Mr. Salam begging for his child to be excluded and comforted from what was taking place. Not for himself, but for his 3-year-old child.
Case number 4, Adina Britt and family, September 10th, 2015.
My name is Adina Britt, and I wanted to submit a 30-second testimonial that Jorge Omar Bernardez Ruiz is one of the 11 terrorists that came into my house performing a home invasion in September 2015, terrorizing my entire family and even holding my 12-year-old son at gunpoint. He needs to be stopped.
Case number 5, unidentified arrestee, assaulted in 2016.
I suggest you back the fuck up.
No, why you
Again, this video did not surface until the summer of 2020. Case 6, Thomas McCullough, May 2016 and February 2017.
I heard my front door coming off the hinges like it exploded.
Thomas McCullough says it happened twice. In May 2016 and February 2017, Baltimore City Police burst through his green front door and raided his Pimlico home.
They said, police. They come up, shotguns, guns.
He says officers ransacked the place, looking for drugs, money, and weapons. He took pictures of the damage he says they left behind.
Tell us where the drugs are, the scales, the guns, and the large amounts of money.
Nothing was found. Now he's suing police, claiming officers, including a former member of the Gun Trace Task Force, frightened him, his wife, and father-in-law when the officers conducted what his suit calls an illegal search of his home. The owner of the house tells 11 News after the second raid, he had to replace the front door. McCullough and his attorney say they want Baltimore police held accountable.
There is a colossal breach of trust.
And McCullough tells us following both raids, no one was arrested or charged.
This all begs the question, when will Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby see the prosecution of Bernardez Ruiz as warranted?
They were the stopping officers in these so-called jump-out cars, unmarked and so forth, that stopped both the West vehicle and the Salam vehicle without probable cause. And these officers are the ones that also were joined by others, but they are the ones who initiated the stops, pulled both men out of the vehicles, and commenced the vicious activity that was thrust upon them.
And the officer Ruiz that started this attack is still working and working with promotions. He is now sergeant. But the fact that this repeat violent offender had a history leading up to my brother. There was Darrell Harris, there was James Green, Joseph Green, Abdul Salam, and my sister Dina and her family. No one family deserves to be brutally murdered or brutalized by this repeat violent offender Ruiz. It is time we take action. The time is now.
Baltimore police officer Jorge Bernardez Ruiz is a repeat violent offender. Based on these accounts, in accordance with the law, we, the West Coalition, call for him to be fired, prosecuted, and incarcerated.
We're more than hashtags and body bags. We're more than being 6 feet in the dirt and pictures and buttons on t-shirts. Our lives matter.
For the safety of our city, the prevention of further harm, and the justice for these families, we see no other option.
And again, I'll say, the time is now.